Good morning. Today I'm out in the quiet of the Lincolnshire countryside making an awful lot of noise on this. And this is the Indian FTR1200. So it's based on a big 1200 twin that makes about 125 brake horsepower. And it's styled like an old flat tracker. So it's probably a little bit heavy for a flat tracker in this day and age. But for just having a pot around the little country lanes and even some fast A roads, I'm enjoying myself way more than I thought I would be. This is a demo bike that I've tried from Chris Walker Motorcycles, and it's the rally version. So this one has had a few extras put on it. So I think the rally version comes with the spoke wheels. It's not the S version, which gets the digital dash. And this one also has this Remus exhaust with a straight through pipe, which is glorious, but probably a bit loud for day-to-day use. Okay, so very first impressions. It feels really small for a bike as big as this. It really does feel quite small and nimble. That is a surprise. I've ridden other cruisers in the past, and yeah, they always felt a little bit big and ungainly. I mean, this is no tiny sports bike that can be thrown around, but for the size of bike, yeah, it all feels quite compact, but not squashed. Seating position is very relaxed. I think the bars are just that little bit higher. It's a 1200 twin, as you might expect from the name, but it's yeah, it's about the same power as my 1200 GS, the old one. I think it's around 123-ish, and yeah, certainly seems to go all right. Anyway, I'm going to have a run out into the countryside and see what it's like on the road down to Melton. So I've done a few miles on it now. It just handles really well. This bike is the Rally, as I mentioned earlier. So it does have knobbly tyres, which I would have thought don't really help with the handling, but you know, it's a dry day today, and these are country lanes with a few bumps, and actually it's fine. You know, there's no problems with the tyres at all, and they do look quite cool. I'm not sure I'd leave them on all the time. I'd probably switch to some sort of touring tyre, but for the whole flat tracker look, I think they're spot on. The gear shift is quite smooth. There's no quick shift or anything fancy like that on this bike, and bearing in mind I'm also used to riding my 1250 GS with that agricultural clunk whenever you change gear, and there's none of that. The controls are well laid out. The mirrors give you good visibility behind you. If anything, maybe the clocks are a little bit low, but I'm 6'1", so I do have to kind of look down to take a glance, and maybe that's improved a bit with the TFT display. Otherwise, I mean, it's simple, I'll give it that. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but then again, I don't think it needs to. I think a bike like this, it really is just for, you know, riding around the countryside, you know, making the most of the scenery. You don't need to be going crazy speeds. I mean, I'm doing 50 on this lovely twisty road. The cars are keeping ahead of me because they're also doing the speed limit, and yeah, I think just for the sheer joy of riding a bike, this is definitely up there. I had been looking forward to riding this for a really long time. I've seen it at the bike shows for the last couple of years, and every time I've seen one in the flesh, they just look brilliant. You know, they don't quite have that all chrome, you know, look of one of the more traditional cruisers, but for something that, you know, is kind of a halfway house, it's got a really comfy riding position, and they're not crazy money. I think this one is about £11,000. Which, okay, is they're not giving them away, but when you look at what, you know, some of the others go for, I think it's quite competitively priced for what it is. I think availability of dealers might be a little bit of a problem. I had to travel down to Chris Walker Motorcycles in Grantham from Edale to find one, but you know, it's not a terrible ride, and I think there are a few scattered around the country. So if you have one nearby, I think they're definitely looking for definitely worth a look, especially if you're considering a bike of this type. And the roll on, just that growl. So I'm currently in 5th, doing just over 40, and it is just fantastic. That is just what motorcycling is all about. I just love it. I won't tell them that when I get back, obviously, but I can definitely see me owning one of these in the near future. I don't know whether I'd go for the exhaust that's quite as loud as this Remus with a straight through pipes, because though it is glorious out here, I think in a lot of the villages, yeah, that's just even a little pop, that's just a very slight roll off at 40 in 5th. I mean, if I drop it down 2 gears into 3rd, again, this is just from 40, but wow, that is just, and the torque is just relentless. That is so much fun. That really is brilliant. Anyway, I'll be sensible again. So yeah, it's I think just as a bike for fun. I mean, I don't think it's going to replace my GS for doing long tours, and it's probably a little bit big and a little bit too desirable just for nipping down the shops or maybe city riding. But I think for just a bike for fun to go out and have a play in the countryside, I think this is more fun than I've had in a long time. Riding this 1200 Indian for about half an hour now, and it's just been great. It's really easy to ride around town. You can poodle about in low revs. You don't really need to pay that much attention to the gears because it's got so much torque that whether 3rd, 4th, 5th, just pick a volume that you like from the exhaust and you go at that rate. There's no wind protection because it's a naked bike, but that's not really been a problem. I'm sure that up to 60, 70 it's fine. I think maybe 80, like with any naked bike, you'd start to feel it a bit, and that's not legal, so you wouldn't do it anyway. But yeah, it's great. I think the exhaust is too loud, just the pops and bangs, and though they are a lot of fun, I think in the countryside where there might be animals or people, it's a little bit antisocial, but that's what floats some people's boat. Not sure what else to say about it really. I think I definitely like one. I think if when the time comes to maybe even replace my CB1000R, it'll be with something like this. And it is slightly an odd bike because it looks like it should feel a lot bigger. And maybe it's because it's generally posted alongside the others in the Indian range, which are all sort of big cruisers. I'm really enjoying the bike. I'm going to ride it back to the dealer now, and then have a think about which colour and maybe when. But yeah, no, I've loved it. I've had a really fun half hour, so now happy. So I have ridden some cruisers before. I've ridden a Harley Davidson V-Rod around the back hills of Texas Hill Country, which though it was a great bike for those roads where there's lots of space and no really sharp corners. And at no point did I think, yeah, I should get one of these instead of a bike that I already owned. I'd also ridden a Ducati Diavel S, which I know isn't quite a cruiser, but the one I rented was out of Miami and it had forward mounted pegs, so very much had sort of a cruiser seating position. Now I think this is completely different. This almost has sort of definitely a more normal, more upright riding position, and I know that that's because it's the flat tracker style, not a cruiser. But if you want to get that thrill of having that sort of big V-twin rumbling away underneath you, without having the having to lift your legs up in front of you in that sort of laid-back riding position that puts weight on your arms, then I'll be honest, I think this is just the perfect bike for that. I think just something you can just get on and go for a run out, and even though it looks quite big, it really isn't big. It doesn't feel big when you're sitting on it. And just for roads like this, so these are a few little B roads out in the countryside, it is just glorious. I think this is what gets people into motorcycling. Now, okay, they're not giving them away, but for the price, I think it's really good value for money. And then there's the tricky question, would I have one? Now, I already have the Ducati Scrambler at home, which I guess is probably the closest bike to this, but this just feels so much more refined. And okay, it is 4 grand more, so it's not comparing like with like, but I think that's probably what I would upgrade to move from, to go from that to this, because it really is just so much fun. And yes, I would absolutely have one. If you have an Indian dealer somewhere near you, I would recommend just going and trying one out, just for the sheer fun that they bring. I'm sure many people have seen them at the bike shows, alongside all the other offerings at the Indian stand. But yeah, I've really been very impressed indeed with this. It's been a great way to spend an hour. So there we go. So that was my ride of the Indian FTR1200. I loved it. It was just such a fun bike to ride. A little bit noisy, but who doesn't mind a bit of noise? Yeah, so I'm going to go away and have a think. I think there may well be one of those in my future. I would recommend it to anyone. If you have an Indian dealer near you, you should go and have a try. Huge thanks to Chris Walker Motorcycles for letting me try theirs. It was a bit of a trek to get here from Edale, but certainly worth it. And yeah, enjoyed it.